There are many great places, spectacles, and experiences I've witnessed in my over half a century on this planet. But the International Isle of Man Tourist Trophy Race is both a place and an experience that has long since vanished everywhere else. You have the right to ask what I mean by that. Well, I'll give you an example. I just came back from Austin, Texas recently, last month actually, to see the Formula One race there. It was slick. It was glamorous. They even rolled out a couple of old legends from the old boys club, David Coulthard and Mika Hakkinen, for a few minutes anyway.
More about F1 then versus now. So what does modern F1 have that you wish was around in your era?
Mika Hakkinen.
Well, it's definitely much more complicated now than it was in our time. You know, when we were talking with the data engineers, we had maybe 3 to 4 data engineers. And now they are like 25, 30 data engineers.
Both at the track and back at the factory as well.
Yeah, exactly. Also back in the factory. So when you've done your free practice and you go back in the motorhome or whatever you call it, you'll have 25 people who you have to communicate about the balance of the car, the changes what we make, how that affects your driving and this and that. So it's become a very, very complicated, very challenging for the driver to be able to get the right information. But I still, so our time is much more simple in that way. We have less people working.
But frankly, the whole event felt very sanitized. The racing was largely processional, and because it's more of an elite show than a race now, there's a script to follow. F1 drivers today are largely media-savvy celebrity commodities. The on-track drama is somewhat contrived and, in truth, overshadowed by the Netflix soap opera politics around it. It didn't feel like an experience, but more of a carefully orchestrated and choreographed performance. And don't please try to pass, as you may cause another driver to have to brake or steer, and that will get you a penalty. As a racing spectacle, you are many tens of meters away from the track. You're not allowed anywhere near the drivers. The cars sound anemic, I'm afraid it's true. And while I'm a lifelong fan, it just didn't move me much. My wallet, though? Well, that was raped. But perhaps most damning of all, being there was not as good as watching Formula One on the television.
Unfortunately, we got here a little late. They've already been and gone. The race only ended, 20 minutes, but it takes a while to get on the track.
Television has become F1's lens and its filter, and that is exclusively what it caters to. When I was a kid in the 70s, Brands Hatch still had the raw passion. When the cars raced, your giblets trembled, your spine tingled, your eyes widened. The drivers were audacious, both on and off the track. But that, as I mentioned earlier, was a different time and a different world. Do you want to go there again, though? That's the question I have for you. And if you do, boy, you won't regret it. I can only speak for myself. But I've found as I age, the intoxication of the highs and the drama of the lows are tempered. There are fewer first experiences, and your reactions to events are even more considered. Your emotions are literally more constrained. So it's very special indeed when something comes along and rekindles that spontaneous, raw, visceral excitement that becomes more elusive as you age. I've spun aircraft, crashed cars, raced sailboats, and of course, ridden motorcycles. But this was my first TT. In these videos, I'm going to give you my first impressions of a 118-year-old race, a race I've wanted to see for 60 years. And I'm going to warn you in advance of my unfiltered instinctive reactions, my youthful-like naivety, and in places the raw nature of these videos may appear to be amateur. Well, they are. But when your mind is blown, emotion does become the director of the story.
Okay, now.
Hopefully, I've fired you up to want to go to the Isle of Man TT already. But how are you going to get there? Well, if you want to get to that small, picturesque island in the middle of the Irish Sea, with its influences almost perfectly reflected by its position betwixt Northern Ireland, England and Scotland, then it's easy. Get a ferry or a flight. Except, of course, unless you want to go during the last week of May and the first week of June. For that is the time that the island hosts the nearly 120-year-old 37 3/4 mile International Isle of Man Tourist Trophy Race, initially created to promote tourism on the island. And boy, does it work.
Seconds to go. It becomes a very lonely place for Michael Dunlop as he now leaves the start line, so
During those 2 weeks and for a few days either side, the island is absolutely packed with motorcycles and their riders from all corners of the globe who have come to see the world's greatest race. And believe me, this is the world's greatest race. Nothing compares to this one. I'm not going to explain why it's called that. That will become evident as you watch these videos. Truly, a race from a bygone era with modern machinery dueling on roads originally designed for a horse and a cart. It is something to behold.
Got the Stilton, there you go, look at the Stilton, beautiful, doing well.
Unfortunately, you better plan ahead. The ferries will have been completely booked exactly a year in advance of the TT, even for motorcycles. The flights will be booked up as soon as they're scheduled, which is about 6 months ahead. And even if you swim, the accommodations and campsites will be few and far between, and I dare say expensive.
This is our nice tent here. We're just getting out of here this morning. Next door neighbours got the music on. I don't suppose you signed up to this channel for the Quidditch World Cup, but nevertheless, that's what it looks like here at the IntentsGP campsite. We had a massive storm last night. These things held up really well, force 5. And we're going to head off to our spot this morning. Pick up some electronics on the way.
And so it was. After years of planning, Ryan and I squeaked our bums on an EasyJet from Gatwick to Douglas. We flew to the island at the end of the first week's practice and qualification. The original plan had been to ride from Surrey up to Heysham and get the ferry, and have a great time riding the Isle of Man for 2 weeks. However, we ended up flying to Douglas, camping and hiring a couple of bikes and staying for 10 days. It sounds easy, but even a year or so ahead, finding the flights, booking the tent and getting those elusive bikes was more luck than judgment. This island is beautiful, and flying over it gives you a great perspective. We bought our Go Transit cards, tracked the buses on our app, and jumped aboard the next one outside the airport. The practices, the quali, and the race take priority over everything on the island, and we fully expected to have to wait 3 hours at the Quarterbridge pub outside of Douglas for the track clear cars to indicate that the Friday practice was over before we could cross the track and get to our IntentsGP campground and our tent. But on stepping off the bus just below Bray Hill, we saw the roads open car fly by, and the traffic and pedestrians started to enter the track behind it. We were lucky. Pete Hickman and his new 810 team, though, was not. He had crashed up island because of a component failure on his bike during Q3 at Carrymore, which is mile 21, while chasing Dean Harrison, and that's a name you will hear again. The weather on the island was seasonably or unseasonably cold. I couldn't tell you, but it was cold. Lows of 4, highs of 13. The IntentsGP Campground was a great location for us, and the facilities were first rate, including charging, regularly cleaned toilets and showers. But bring your own sleeping bag, as I mentioned, it is cold. Looking somewhat like the Quidditch World Cup, the atmosphere at the campsite was amazing. Being located between Quarterbridge and Braddon Bridge means it's right on the inside of the track. But heads up, it is on the inside of the track, and once that track is closed, you cannot cross it. You're stuck on the inside or the outside, wherever you happen to be. We did find a cheat under the Quarterbridge corner. The school kids all know it and told us about it, but it's a bit of a fiddle. And don't get caught crossing the track before the road's open car has passed. You'll get a free room and board at the Douglas jail and be extradited the very next day. And yes, I mean extradited, removed from the island. The IntentsGP Campground has food available and people on staff for 24 hours. We found it relatively quiet and a safe space. Best of all was walking right to the track beside the campsite.
Sounds peaceful, doesn't it? Birds all singing in the woods. And that's what the Isle of Man is like. It's beautiful, but it's unique. It's really rubbed off on me because this island loves motorcycles.
Sharing half with you.
This was a great introduction to spectating and the racing without too much traveling.
Harrison's in the lead by 2.3.
I'm not shocked.
That's Todd.
Yeah, because
We wouldn't get our bikes for a day or two yet, so this made perfect sense and was really convenient. Highly recommended. So this is one of the riding marshals that rides around the track. Beautiful bike. It's almost a super stock. And he'll be checking the track out. As you can see, he's looking for obstacles and all sorts of different things on there. As I mentioned before, there is zero tolerance for anyone on the track once the roads are closed. That was made clear to us. The marshals are clear, the police are firm. If your feet touch the track, you're gone. And good riddance. The TT is littered with rider and spectator deaths for much of its history, but that doesn't mean you should try. The marshals are volunteers. You can apply to be a marshal. All the most dramatic spectating venues are free, and that's most of them. There are a few grandstands, but at nearly 38 miles long, the track is largely yours to enjoy for nothing. There are some places you can't go, but they're well marked. There are too many great viewpoints to see, and of course the track is open for you to ride outside of race times. The mountain section is one way during race weeks, and like much of the island, has no speed limit. Speed limits are imposed outside of towns when the TT is on, except on the mountain section. But outside of the TT weeks, the island is devoid of speed limits except right in town. The track is divided into 37-mile segments, and nearly each segment has somewhere to view the race from. I'll show you my favorites and future favorite spots in the next video. You'll have to plan where you want to be based on the day's track closure times, which is well communicated and documented in the weeks before the event. If you're not careful, like I said, you may get stuck somewhere and unable to cross the track to get back to your accommodation or tent. Track closures will change only with weathers or crashes. When I'm traveling somewhere, I read about how the locals are always so friendly, and I kind of blithely push that out of my mind thinking, sure. But I'm telling you now, the people of the Isle of Man are unbelievably receptive of the race and the riders who go to watch it. We didn't meet or hear of anyone who was opposed to the race on the island. The locals are laid back, polite, kind, helpful, and knowledgeable about the race and motorcycles. We didn't have one bad look, smirk, or poor experience. And they will go out of their way to help you. In fact, as soon as we arrived at the airport, got our go-card from the little booth inside there, we got outside and found a bus stop and began to read the timetable. A man just walked up to us, opened his official bus app for the Isle of Man, I think it's called Mango, which allows users to book and pay for services, track vehicles in real time, and manage a journey. He showed us how to get it, how to use it, and then showed us how to find where and when our next bus would arrive. Another day, we went to a laundrette. We were told by the owner where the best local place for breakfast was, and when we got back, our clothing was dry, folded, packed into our bags, and then he asked if he could run us back to our campsite. Everyone there seems to smile when the TT is on. You would think the locals will be put out by all the road closures. Far from it. They are used to it, and they love it. In fact, when we spoke to one guy, he said he's kind of sad when it all finishes. It gets kind of lonely, he said. Mike, who we rented our bikes from, was also unbelievably chill. He helped us with the ins and outs of navigating the island, what to look out for, and didn't have any warnings or dour words for us. He just sent us on our way with a cheery wave and a have fun. Then there's the racing. In the next videos, I'll show you specific viewpoints, ride the tram to the mountain section.
We're breaking up. We're breaking up.
We'll rent bikes and ride the track.
Those 8 minutes you go straight up there, but they shut the road, and that's part of the race course. I don't know if you can get back down the back way or not.
We'll go up, take a look.
And of course, the experience we came to immerse ourselves in, the racing, the riders, and the paddock. Wow. See you all in the next one.